Welcome back to Culture Vannin. With me is Adrian, and with me, of course, is this very special book that you've been looking forward to releasing.
Brian Stowell's autobiography, basically, in Manx. Yeah, Gaelg is Fishig, Skeeal Manx and physics. My life story. It's called Physics because obviously the Manx stuff might be apparent for people, but I've just been saying before that I first met Brian when he was lecturing in physics at the Poly in Liverpool many years ago.
And that's how you all came?
Yeah, that's it.
Let's run that because you did a lovely little speech. So let's hear what you said to everyone just a few minutes ago.
Okay. So I met Brian with a very good friend of mine many years ago in the Irish Centre in Liverpool. And it was a revelation, really. Not just the Manx, but basically what Brian did was introduce me to Manx history, Manx culture, Manx identity, the full gamut, really. It was a bit of a revelation, really. All this stuff, all these stories, which I hadn't learnt at school. But he was this immense character in Liverpool, teaching Irish for the most part. That was, as well as teaching physics at the Poly then. So he was teaching physics, he was teaching Irish, and then he started teaching, three of us actually from the Isle of Man, who he started teaching Manx to. But at the same time, there was this sort of, it was just this story, the Isle of Man, that he sort of passed on to us, really, and it was a revelation. So I must say, out of all the people, I must say thank you to, it's Wendy. Okay, so I'm going to pull your rod. This is the person who got it done, really, Wendy. She's going to be interviewed both on the radio and camera in a little while, whether she likes it or not, really. We might do it on Skeeal, Sonic Hughes, okay? And Wendy's a person among, saw Brian just, in his last months and stuff. We all knew this was underway. It was all but finished, but especially whilst I was doing something else for a little while, Wendy really took this in hand, to be honest, and it's really because of her hard work that we're here today. So, jump the mic. Okay. So, So, what an amazing character. We've got Arthur Cayley just there. Apparently the biggest person ever to live in the Isle of Man. But in some sense, Brian, to me anyway, was the biggest personality and the most important sort of character over the last few years of the language. I remember being in Guernsey a few years ago, and I was talking to where the language is in really desperate trouble. And just, I was talking to actually a native speaker in the 70s. He said, "You're trying to compare why the Isle of Man done so well. We've got Bunskull, the Perry team, Culture Vannin, stuff like this, and Cheshire Gaelg and everything. Why has the Isle of Man done so well? And Guernsey, it's nothing apart from a handful of young people speaking." And he said, "Well, you see, we've never had anyone quite like Brian Stowell." He mentioned someone else as well, but he said, "We've never had certain individuals. We've never had the likes of Brian Stowell." And in some sense, and I think he was right, really. And the history of the last 50, 60 years of the language is, in some sense, the history of people like Brian Stowell, not just Brian. But without him, maybe we wouldn't be here. So this is a fitting tribute, I think. This is also in Manx, okay, not English, as it should be. It's a brilliant read, but it's not just a history of the language, it's very much a history of the Isle of Man over the last 50, 60 years. And with that, I would like to thank you all for coming here and all being part of the continuing story of Brian. So, going to mind more yet.
Well, that puts a bit of background to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Did you ever think, though, that he'd be so important to you, and to the culture, and to the Isle of Man?
I think we're very lucky in the Isle of Man to have had, not just in the culture and language, but, people have a real sense of pride and identity in the place and do enormous stuff for the islands. And I think that's a distinguishing thing about the islands, the love that certain people have for it. And Brian's was articulated through the language and the culture and stuff. And the stuff he did, and I thought that, which I didn't say in the sort of presentation, but the thing you always remember most about Brian is he did it without ego. He didn't really have an ego. It wasn't done for his own benefit at all. It was done because he believed in it and found great joy in it, and he was just a great guy.
Yeah, he was no one for like, look at me, or anything like that, was he? Very quiet.
Yeah, not at all. He just cracked on with stuff, and I think that was a great lesson I learned from him. Just get on with it. You know, enjoy the language, teach it, encourage others to use it, and it was done. It wasn't done for his own personal sort of, ego or anything like that.
So he was teaching 3 Manxies in Liverpool, right?
When I first met him, he was a lecturer in physics. He taught Irish in evening classes, Irish, and then he started taught me and a couple of other people Manx as well, really.
That's lovely.
So, clever guy.
I mean, it's not long since gone, but it must have been amazing to see what he'd done in his time.
Well, I think over, not just him, but his life stretches, and he learnt Manx very young in his teens. He was interested in Manx from a very early age, and so he was involved for the best part of 70 years really in the language, and saw it go from when it was very much a minority, thing with not much interest and support, growing up to the situation now, like the Skeeal and so many kids learn all this sort of stuff. So it's quite, it's interesting that this story is a story of sort of change in the fate of the language, and also a strengthening of Manx cultural identity in general, of which he has played an important part, I have to say.
Well, it's all in Manx, right? So you'd be a Manx speaker too.
You need to, absolutely. It's just in Manx, which is great actually, because Brian was brilliant really. If you do speak Manx, this is a lovely read. It's written beautifully. It's not a difficult, read. It's one of his many talents, apart from being a professor of physics, was to be able to write really well too. It's a very annoying book. Okay. So, a fitting tribute, I think.
So, how much is the book?
It's £12 and available all the usual outlets. If you're interested in Manx, but even to be honest, even if you don't speak Manx, and you like stuff about the Isle of Man, this is the sort of thing you should have really, because it's a fitting testament to an amazing character.